What's up, guys? It is Rayshawn and Huge, and we are the Unscripted Real Artists. And in today's video, we are going to talk about Mortal Kombat. Okay? The old
The
version
OG.
versus the new version. Let's get into it. So, we know that the first Mortal Kombat movie came out in 1997.
Was it 97?
Yeah.
I thought it said 95 up here. It came out in 95. The first
Well, the
Mortal
one that I'm
Kombat.
looking at is
They did have a sequel, and I think maybe that came out in 97.
okay, so
Yeah, Mortal
Annihilation
Kombat Annihilation.
Annihilation was the
That one came
first
out in
one,
97.
right?
No, Annihilation is the second one. You have the OG Mortal Kombat, and then you have Annihilation, which
Okay.
is the
So
second one.
so the one that I'm always familiar with, well, the one that I really like is Annihilation. Like I like the first one, but I like Annihilation more. I don't know, that's just me. But
Right.
one was
But we're
actually
just
pretty
comparing
good.
the OG franchise with the new
Yeah, yeah,
franchise
yeah.
in light of the second movie currently being filmed
Which
because
is
they resumed
pending.
filming
It's
after the strike
right.
uh ended.
So,
Yeah.
one thing that I can say that I liked about the OG franchise is that the lines were better. And that's no shade to how it's being written now. Because the newer sequence and stuff, it just drags on a little bit too much for my liking. Like I know we did a review, and this is during the parallelogram, I believe. Um,
It was
we
because it
did a
came out in
review,
2021.
right? Oh yeah,
So
it was. We did a
we
review
were
on
well
it.
into the panoramic
We were.
and nobody was going to the theaters.
We weren't. Um, but we watched it, and to be honest, we only watched it because one of our faves was in there, right? And it was cool.
Well, a couple of our faves.
Yeah, a couple of our faves. But to be honest, if we're keeping it a buck, keep it at a stack. It drug on far too long in certain areas. And there were certain areas where it was like, some of the stuff isn't needed. Let's cut out the fluff. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
For me, I was like, they should have cut this down to a certain degree.
So, I mean, I think we could get pretty specific because it's been out for a while.
It's
It
been out for a
has.
while.
We in 2023. It's been 2 years. If you haven't seen it yet, you know,
What you
just
doing?
go, just go watch it.
Okay, so
It's on Max.
so I'm gonna say this, since we can drop the tea on the show. So I mean on the movie. So Cole Young's whole storyline, some of that could have gotten chopped because sometimes what they do is they add more on because they think they need to stretch out a movie. You're dragging it on because then you're going to make the
And
character look less like a superhero, I'm going to say, and more like the family man, rah, rah, rah. And he could be both. You know what I'm saying? And that's fine and dandy. But
porque
then
no
it
los
takes
dos.
away from what
Mm,
is actually happening within the story, what's supposed to be occurring. It drug
right.
on way too fast, way too much for me, way too
Too much.
long.
Yeah. Because I mean, there's ways of showing that a character is a family man without having to specifically write scenes that shows that they're a family man. For example,
Mm-hmm.
like um in some movies you might see them have, like, if they're like a fighter or something, or a warrior or whatever, a soldier, they might have a picture of their family in their pocket or something like that, and they
Mm-hmm.
might pull it out
Mm-hmm.
briefly And that just is like, okay, yeah, this person is a family man. But you don't
Right.
necessarily have to show them, you know, doing family stuff and all this other stuff. You don't necessarily have to do all of that. So I see what I do understand what you're saying, but also the whole fact of the matter is that the character was kind of unnecessary in that you have a very large cast of characters from the games that you could pull from, right?
Mhm.
I personally didn't think it was necessary to, you know, create this new character
Mhm.
to explain away the story.
Right.
I feel like it was a little bit unnecessary because then now you have this character that you have to introduce to the audience, make the audience care about the character, and then get into the main storyline based around the games and stuff. So I feel like it would have been a lot easier to just use one of the characters from the games and introduce that character's backstory and then hop into whatever storyline you were trying to do. You know what
Right.
I mean?
Right.
And I get that they wanted to do the whole Scorpion versus Scorpion's clan versus Ice, not Ice, Sub
Sub-Zero.
Zero's clan. I don't remember the names. I don't. I am sorry. But you know that whole rivalry thing and like animosity that they have towards each other. I get that you wanted to introduce that, but you could have just as easily started it and with those characters and focused on those characters
Mhm.
without having to introduce yet another character that you have to now make the people care about, and you have to do it in a very quick time span because you have a limited, you know, amount of time to do so. And it's just like, and then on top of that, we are introduced to this character, and you know, it's kind of like, and if you're a fan of the franchise, the game franchise, you're like, who is? You basically just sitting there like, who is this?
No,
Like,
for real.
who is he?
No, for
Right?
real.
And it's just kind of like, why why was it necessary? Because you like, I get it, you're trying to introduce it to a new audience that may not necessarily be familiar with the Mortal Kombat franchise, which is fine, but you could still do that with a pre-existing character. And
Mhm.
honestly, personally, I felt like you could have just as easily cast LT as Johnny Cage.
Facts, cuz that's what I said.
Because yeah, Johnny Cage is depicted as a blonde-haired white guy,
Mhm.
but Louis Tan is half English. Like,
Right.
he could easily pull off the look
Right.
of Johnny Cage.
Right.
Like, easy.
Right.
Easy. So why not? And that's part of the reason why people were what some people actually were like when he did Iron Fist.
Mhm.
They wanted him to be um Danny Rand,
Mhm.
because Danny Rand is a white boy in the comics.
Mhm.
You could have easily had Lewis do be Danny Rand.
Mhm.
Nobody would have batted an eye because for all intents and purposes, he could pass as a white boy.
Yeah.
Like, come on, y'all, for real. And then now you have the criticism because of the criticism of that from that movie.
Mhm.
Now it's kind of like you have a lot of people that are like, just kill off not Johnny,
Cole
kill
Young.
off Cole Young. Basically, they're like, oh, kill him off, da 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 da. And it's like,
I don't
now what
disagree.
y'all gonna do? Because you know,
I don't disagree with that. And it's like no shade
because like I
to
want my boy to get a bag, but
and
at
it's
the same
no
time,
in
I
facts. Because if
don't.
you really think about it, think about this. What purpose will he serve when Johnny Cage comes on to the scene?
Yeah,
He's
because
basically gonna
literally it's
just
implied in the end of the movie that
right,
that's who he's going to meet is Johnny Cage. So it's just
right.
like,
So for me, I was just like, okay, so when they did the reboot with, the last movie for the new updated uh series, I was like, this is a filler character. You know what I'm saying? When in all actuality, it should have just been him casted as Johnny Cage. We moving along because then that builds up the excitement. Yeah, you got us. I'm not even finna hold y'all. I fell asleep a couple times watching the movie. Why?
yo,
I'm not even finna lie to y'all. I did. Why? Because the slow parts, and I was falling asleep during the fighting scenes. Why? Because the moments where they could have cut it down, they didn't. It was just like, I'm a family man. I'm a family man. Rah rah rah. And that's all cool, fine, and dandy. But that's where you're gonna lose me. And I'm
it's
trying so hard to power through and watch the movie. My little brother was
it's
watching it with
giving
me.
Guile. Go home and be a family man.
Hello. And it literally was like to a point where my little brother was watching the movie with me. That boy went to sleep within 30 minutes of watching the movie, maybe an hour. He knocked out. He's a young kid. However,
Mm-hmm.
he was excited to see the movie because we watched the originals, right?
Right, and
He
you play the
loved
games
them.
too.
He
Mm.
loved them. We was doing a whole bunch
Yeah.
of get over here, and I would snatch his shirt, and
Get over here.
he would literally fly like a black mom snatching up a kid. That's how hard I was snatching. But it was fun. But but
Yo,
but but it was like the Matrix, girl. I promise you. But
yo,
but
just
but but yeah, like there's again, we know this Cole Young was a filler character. All you're just trying to do is
right.
just place him here to move the story along to the next journey, where you could
And I
have cut
mean,
that down.
I ain't gonna hold you. We know what happens to filler characters in general. They usually get the axe. I'm just saying.
Yeah, they do.
And I mean, if you wanted to play the fish out of water angle, you could have just as easily did it with Johnny Cage. I'm just saying. You
Facts.
could have just as easily did it with Johnny Cage. Johnny Cage would have been like, what's
Because if
going
you,
on here,
because if you really
right?
wanted to, you could have wrote it to the
And you still
way.
could have used our boy.
Yeah, they could have wrote it in a way where I mean, not Johnny Cage. Um, yeah, where Johnny Cage is the descendant of Scorpio or something like that. If you wrote it, if
Scorpion,
you just
exactly. You could have played it like that.
because
Like I
Cole
know it
Young
wouldn't be
is
canonically, lining up with the games canonically, the story of the
mm,
games, but you could have went that route to satisfy that whole thing of like needing a character to introduce people to this universe. You could have easily played up that angle of the fish out of water angle that you had with Cole.
yeah.
Like he don't know what's going on, all this other stuff. You could have easily just airdropped Johnny Cage
Yeah.
in the role of Cole Young
Yeah.
and having Sonya and Jax explain the whole thing to him, and it
Yeah.
would have worked just as well. And it would have you could have cut out some of the extra stuff. You
And
know what I
all of that
mean?
explanation, he was just I just didn't like the way, and this is no shot at the writers, but it does feel like they did more explaining and less action. And
Right.
it
There was
drug
a lot of
on.
exposition.
Right. And it
Yeah.
drug
And I think
on.
that's part of what yeah, that's definitely part of what drug it on was them having to explain a lot of the stuff and then they also added in the stuff about the character of Cole,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And again, this ain't no shade against the writers because a lot of the times we know that there's a lot of red tape and stuff involved
Yeah.
with the writing process
Right.
that has to get approved and all this other
Right.
stuff. And again, it's also no fault on the actor that plays Cole Young because
Mm-hmm.
the actors are just given the script. They ain't got no choice. It's just like here's the script, act my like
Hello?
that's pretty much what it is. But it could have been done a lot better, and I don't know why it went the route that it did, you know?
Yeah.
But I think that's the main gripe that a lot of people have about the reboot is the character of Cole Young and how and your criticisms how they it slowed down quite a bit and you know and then on top of that you're not even really able to connect with the some of the main characters from the games like
Yeah.
Liu Kang and what is it, guy with the hat, god,
Raiden.
what was his name, huh, no, not
Raiden.
Raiden, um
The guy with the hat.
the blade hat, what's his name, my brain is not functioning right now. Hold on,
Girl, my brain teleported. I'm like,
my
what?
brain just went. It's Max Huang's character, but I don't remember the name of the character, and I'm just Kung Lao. God,
Oh
why couldn't I
gosh,
remember Kung
girl.
Lao? My brain.
I'm like,
Yeah,
what? Yeah, that
they
went
didn't. I
right.
feel like they didn't give us enough time to connect with like
Yeah.
Kung Lao. So when
Yeah.
he actually
Does
gets
come on the
taken by Shang
scene.
Tsung, like
Right.
give me your soul thing, you know,
Right.
I feel like we didn't
Right.
have enough time to like really get attached to him and for that
Mm-hmm.
moment to really be like in the feels. You feel me? Because we spent so much
Right.
time on freaking Cole and his whole shtick, you know?
Yeah.
And so the payoff, and I feel like because we spent so much time on him and stuff, I feel like when he actually, that moment when he actually gets his powers, when he's fighting, the forearm, what's his name?
Goro.
Goro. When he fights Goro and he gets his powers, it's kind of, I feel like it's a little lacking
Yeah.
because a moment like that is supposed to be like, oh yeah, it's
It's about
about
to
to go
go
motherfucking
down.
down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it lacked a little bit of that momentum
Yeah.
that was needed for that moment, you know. And I
Yeah.
think it's because of so much focus on, you know, it's just the way that they did it that it lacked a little bit of the impact
Yeah.
that it needed, that it should have had, you know.
Yeah. I agree. Cause all those big moments where you're like ready to see somebody kick butt, it just didn't give what we all were expecting. Because if you
What we
even
were
look
all
at it,
hoping for.
right, we were we were as Mortal Kombat fans, we were let down. And that's something that I'm just like, man, we could have used more of this and less of that. Like the fight scene with Goro, that should have been like up there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like even when they're in the dome and everybody's fighting each other and whatever, whatever, and Muggs is getting murked. There were no feelings attached to none of the characters because, like, oh dang, so and so got sliced. They killed so and so easy. Like, there was just like no reaction. Whereas with the original, the OG
Mm-hmm.
movie, you was just like, no, not my boy. You know what I mean? It was
Right.
more of that because I don't know. Maybe it's just this day and age, people are just trying to shoot and write and just push stuff out.
I think a lot of it is kind of like the criticism that I've had in one of our previous videos where it's kind of like, well, I think I mentioned it in a previous video, but it's basically
Mm-hmm.
like these corporations banking on a franchise because it's that franchise and
Mm-hmm.
thinking, oh yeah, it's this, and this. We know that this is popular. It has a fan base. Let's just do this. And
Right.
not really thinking about the content for real. Like
Mm-hmm.
truly thinking about what they're putting out and wanting to put out a quality piece of art. Like it's not, of course we know that not every film is going to be a masterpiece.
Right.
Some films are just going to be, cannon fodder. Some movies are just going to be like cult classics,
Mm-hmm.
like for example, like The Crow,
Yeah.
that's a cult classic. It may not have done as well when it first came out, but it's, in and of itself, it's a really good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Despite the budget and all the stuff surrounding that film,
Yeah.
but like it's just adding into that trend and supporting that theory that I have about the whole franchise thing, where it's like they're banking on the franchise, and it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna bank on the franchise, bank on the franchise, the name, this, that, and the third,
Yeah.
without really thinking about the quality of the thing that they're putting out.
Mm-hmm.
And that is like really gonna be their downfall for real, because people aren't just gonna be watching a movie just because it's Mortal Kombat or just because it's this or that. If the movie's good, you're gonna get people butts in the seats. Like
Mm-hmm.
take Dragon Ball Evolution. God, that movie is horrible.
Claw my eyes out.
Thank God I didn't see that in movie theater, because that would have been a waste of money. But I already knew it was gonna be bad, because most anime adaptations are not that great. Number one. Number two, the people they cast as the characters.
Bruh.
Don't even get me started. And then on top of that, just completely lost the plot. They made Goku a high schooler. Like, I get it. You can't necessarily make Goku a child, because he's like, what, 5, 6 years old in the OG Dragon Ball? But he's like really, really small. He's like really, really young.
You mean to tell me
But I
they couldn't
get that you
find a young
probably can't use a
child
kid for that.
like
You probably
nine
would have
years
to age him up in
old?
the live action. But you made him a high schooler, and then all this other stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with the plot of Dragon Ball, right? That's why it was terrible. And the reason why it didn't do well is because people watched the movie because they saw, oh yeah, cool, Dragon Ball, it's a live action, blah, blah, blah. And then people told their friends who told their friends who told their friends all the way through until nobody was going to go see the movie because it was
Mm-hmm.
crap. It was trash. So, what do you think is going to happen if you're putting out a film and it's garbage?
Right.
Or it's not what it could be. It's not living up to its full potential.
Right.
You're gonna have people that are gonna go on the internet, because now the internet, social media is in full swing now.
Yeah.
So they're gonna go on Twitter, they're gonna go on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of it, and be like, "Hey, yo, don't go see this movie because it was this, that, and the third."
And they gonna
Then
have
they'll
their
call up
phones
their
out
friends, they'll text their
recording
friends,
certain
all of
parts,
it.
all that stuff, and they gonna pop it on, post it on the internet, post it
Right,
on their
and that is
socials.
why these movies are suffering, because
Mm-hmm.
you're pushing it out based on the name, and people aren't just, when it comes to films and entertainment, they're not just buying it just because of the name.
Right.
Yeah, they're gonna get it for the name, but if it's trash, they're gonna be like, I want a refund.
Duh. My money, please. Thank you.
Like, give me my money back. And I can't blame them. I can't fault them for that, because if it's trash,
Right.
if it's not great, it's not great.
Right.
Period. Point blank. And
Right.
I think a lot of what with the OG Mortal Kombat is and part of the reason why, another reason why this film was not up to par in a lot of people's minds is because of the nostalgia of the OG films.
Mm-hmm.
They did a decent enough job of, introducing the characters. They didn't add any characters that didn't already exist in the franchise, right? They just introduced the story and did what they had to do.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, are there possibly some things that wasn't the best with the film? Probably, because there's a lot to cover
Mm-hmm.
within the story of the games that you can't necessarily cover in a movie of that length. Because it says here the film in '95 was 101 minutes. The sequel was 95 minutes. That's like an hour
Mm-hmm.
and 30,
Yeah.
hour and 30, give or take a couple minutes, right? Both of these, right? There's only so much you can do in an hour and 30 minutes with a
Yeah.
complicated story like the Mortal Kombat games. So, for what it was, they did alright, you know?
I enjoyed it. It was a decent enough story for me.
Exactly. And it was constantly this with the films.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going, 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 going. Of course, you have your little, your moments where it slows down a little bit. to let you breathe, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas Mortal Kombat was the opposite. It wasn't doing this. It was doing
It was the slowest
like
kiddie ride ever. Like, my goodness.
it was like bumper cars, like just going at a snail's pace.
Mm-hmm.
Like bumper cars, but for old people.
Right.
So it's going like mad slow, like just inching. And it's like the highs and lows needed to be the wavelength of the story was not where it needed to be,
At
what it
all.
needs to be at all. Um, but yeah, I'm sorry. I feel like I just took over
No, you
the
good. You
whole
good.
video.
You good. But
I feel like I took over the whole video.
I just feel like there was a lot of hiccups, and when you're tackling on a game to live action film, you need to do your research. That's just like with them saying
Right,
they want to recreate Zelda. Like, I hope they do their research because there's a lot of story when it comes to Zelda. And we talking about
right.
way back.
There's a lot of
It's a lot of story
the
to cover,
storylines
man.
because like there's so many storylines that you could do from the Zelda
Mhm.
games. Like, are you gonna go OG Zelda? Are you gonna do
Right.
Twilight Princess Zelda?
Right.
Like,
Right.
are you gonna do Breath of the Wild? Like, there's so many different
But
plot
that's
lines that
why
you could pull from.
right, but that's why I'm like you got to be careful when you're trying to tackle on stories that come from video games. You know what I'm saying? You got to be careful because they did it that way, and like you said before, it's that nostalgia factor. A lot of people that play these video games are looking for that nostalgia factor. If you can't tap into that, if you can't deliver that, don't touch the story at all because people are
Right.
going to be looking for that.
What they're gonna be looking for is that same level of excitement and energy you
Mm
get from that dopamine rush from playing the games.
hmm. Right.
So you can't, or they're looking for that some level of similarity of that rush of playing the
Right.
games, that excitement, you know, that childlike excitement that you get when you're playing these games.
Right.
You know, that's what people are kind of looking for.
Mm hmm.
And you know, I think a main thing that they need to make sure that they do is you research, you pull from the main parts of the storyline,
Mm
right?
hmm.
Get those main storyline beats down first. Like, you know, okay, so let's say, I don't know, I'm trying to think of another game that I'm familiar with. Um,
Oh, you could do this.
like,
Take the same approach that the Mario movie did. I've never
it's been a
seen
while
it,
since I've seen the
but
live action though.
everybody actually said that it was pretty well, not the live action, but the animated cartoon.
The animated one, yeah.
Yeah. They said they did a really great job. They took whatever they took from the video game, spun it, and it still gave you like
It's
that
still
nostalgia.
good.
It was still well
Right.
written. It was hilarious. It was, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Bowser singing Peaches whatever.
Peaches, peaches. Yeah.
It still gives you like some comedy relief even with all the drama
Mm-hmm.
whatever, but it's still
Right. They created a
great.
cohesive story
Mhm.
from the games, and that's using, like I said, it's using the main components of the story
Yeah.
from the games to
Yeah.
make the movie.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. If
So
you
it's just
going to do
like,
it, model that. Keep that same pattern.
mm-hmm.
You can't just throw a random character in here. We don't know who Cole Young is. Who is he? Y'all just
Who
dropped
that?
this man from the sky. I ain't never heard of this
Right.
man. And we've been playing a video game since we were
Exactly.
young. Who this man?
Because again, like I said earlier, their goal was to draw in people who weren't fans. But the games have been around a long time. Um, you pretty much only gonna really get fans of this franchise to watch
Right.
this film. And even if you weren't going to get fans, like even if you that wasn't the like even though that wasn't the goal of just getting fans, your
Mm-hmm.
goal was to grab new people in.
Right.
You could have still done that with the actual characters
Right.
from the games. Like
Right.
you didn't have to introduce another character fish out of water. Just like I said earlier, you could have used Johnny Cage easily because
Right.
he's not familiar with any of that stuff. He's just an actor. He's a martial
Right.
artist actor, but kind of because I think he's supposed to. Isn't he supposed to be modeled after Van Damme? If
Who?
I remember correctly, Johnny Cage.
I don't even remember.
I think he's
He
supposed to kind of
probably
be
is.
like a Van Damme like kind of character, kind of thing. You
Mm,
know, who's like an action star and this kind of thing.
yeah.
You could have easily done that fish out of water plot that you did with Cole. You could have
Yeah.
easily did it with him. It just
Because we know
it could have
Cole
worked
Young is an
really
MMA
well.
fighter and all that stuff and whatever, whatever. That's cool, fine, and dandy. The man live in the neck of the woods, literally the neck of the woods, whatever, whatever. However, come on, y'all.
You could leave this in, you could take it out. But I just feel maybe that's what the issue
Listen, I
was.
don't know who edited this video, but y'all make that decision, okay? Don't know who edited this video.
Because because again, it goes back to what I was saying. It goes back to what I was saying about Iron Fist. They could have easily cast you had the right there. You could have just easily casted Louis Tan as Danny Rand, and nobody would have cared. Nobody would have cared. That'd have been like, oh, word. And he could do his own stunts. Because you had. I'm sorry, pause. I'm going to go on a whole ass rant right now
Oh,
because
Lord.
you had this man, allegedly, the guy playing Danny Rand, he has no prior martial arts experience, right? Okay, fine, fair. But then when he allegedly, when he actually was supposed to do these scenes and practice, he wasn't doing it. He wasn't doing it. So then why? So then why? And apparently his acting was not the best. Okay, it was lackluster, is what people were saying. Why can you get at least a level up with our boy? Hmm? Was it that so hard? Was
Yeah,
that so hard?
because sometimes they don't want to
He
see
was only one step away, only one call away.
because
No Charlie Puth.
because because here's the thing. When they see certain people, I'm gonna leave that out. I'm not gonna say what I was gonna say. Whoever edited this, cut it out because I'm finna spill the tea to Hugen. But yeah, um, Hugen's rant is over. We're gonna end this video.
Yeah, my rant's over.
Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and turn those post notifications on so that you guys are notified every time that we post. And we will see you guys in the next video. Peace.